Hi, I'm Bubba,
And we are the Filipinas. Hello.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
and welcome to our show. We're rolling out a new format this week, uh, doing things a bit differently. We're going to be more organized, and that is that. I'm doing great. How is everybody else doing?
We're doing great.
So we had a very busy but fruitful week.
Good.
And we're pretty sure tonight will be another fruitful evening for everyone.
Because now we're going to have a new platform for our show. It's going to be a lot more organized. So what we have now on the show is we're going to talk about the current real estate status here in the Philippines. And we have two real estate brokers here, and they're working as a sales manager in
One
Ayala,
of the premium.
one of the premium companies, real estate companies here in the Philippines. That they're gonna talk about the company and its um, focus areas and everything about it. So they are Mr. Miko Andrada and Mr. Edward Oliva. Okay, I got that right. So how are you guys doing?
Hello, sir. Welcome to our show.
Hi, good day. I'm Miko Andrada. I'm a licensed real estate sales agent, and my current position in the company is a senior consultant. And this is Sir Edward. You can introduce yourself.
Hi,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Edward Oliva. You can call me Chino for short. It's a little bit different, but there's a backstory to it. I'm a licensed real estate broker, and I'm a sales manager for Alvea Land Corp.
Okay.
Okay.
So uh go ahead, Bella.
Okay. First off, uh, have you always have you always been in the real estate business? And if not, what did you do before? And what inspired you to get into real estate? I guess that would be a three-part question.
Yeah, I used to work for Shell, the petroleum company. I used to be a territory manager for that company. I always had an inclination towards real estate because everybody told me that money is in real estate. So I took a chance, got my license, and then here I am now, 3 years in the running.
Okay. Because it's the real estate industry is really interesting because as they all say, it's the when you purchase a property, it doesn't decrease
Decrease in
its value. So I guess that's what's interesting about it.
Yep.
Do you agree?
Uh, yeah, actually, right
Kayo
now,
masabi?
the Philippines is currently in a boom right now in terms of real estate. For
Mm.
example, if you bought a property in 10 years ago, it would have been doubled by now. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yep.
Does it apply to
It's
all areas
Actually, more specific. Hello.
generally?
Yeah, more
Mm-hmm.
specific to major, obviously Metro Manila and key cities here in the Philippines. Although, if we look at it, the Metro Manila market is a little bit saturated, to be honest. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so right
Yeah.
now, our company, Alveo and Ayala Land, are trying to concentrate more on the cities surrounding Metro Manila because those are the growth areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Because okay.
so what areas are you trying to focus on near Metro Manila?
Yeah. For North, It's Bulacan and Pampanga. So because obviously because of infrastructure projects as well, there's MRT 7, and then
Oh,
they're trying to develop the Clark Airport in Pampanga. So that comes with it. So most of the real estate there are rising.
mm,
In the south,
oh,
there are several road networks being built. Cavite Laguna Expressway, Cavitex, MCX. So
oh.
those areas in Cavite and Laguna are the ones growing from the south of Metro Manila.
Oh, okay. So, would that mean that a lot of the a lot of the property developments goes hand in hand with road developments, or what comes first? I mean,
Yeah, actually,
is it
in terms of
open
plan,
to?
obviously our government right now is trying to build. So in terms of infrastructure, they're trying to connect all the road networks from Slex, connected to Calax, connected to Cavitex. So everything's interconnect, and they're trying to interconnect everything. So from there, obviously, there's a plan, and then um, right now, Ayala is ahead on trying to locate those road networks and building mixed
Oh,
use districts in the area.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay, let me ask you this. Say if you wanted to buy a property, right, that was kind of close to the city, but not kind of like a suburb.
Yep.
What would that would be very affordable, but they haven't completely it hasn't completely blown up with development yet. So the prices are still pretty reasonable, and it's pretty safe, and the city isn't super far away. Which would you say would be the best area for that?
Miko, you want to answer that?
You will buy a property near the city that is not been yet developed.
Mhm.
I think the price of the property depends on what the developer is doing on that area,
So it depends
because
on the
it
purpose.
depends on the developer. If the developer is like new in the industry, they haven't have enough partners to help them to develop that certain area. So in Ayala, it's been already 100 years being in the real estate industry. So they have already proven
Mm-hmm.
their projects. They have a good history track record. In fact, when Ayala is launching a new project, investors are in line to purchase their property, even if the land is currently aero land. But once the Ayala is will be developing that area, the investors are going near.
Yeah.
So I think the developer has a big impact on a project, even
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it's far from the city.
definitely.
Yeah. Actually, to be more specific with what Miko said, New Valley area in the south is really
Mm-hmm.
safe. It is a decent bet. There's a road network, Cavite Laguna Expressway,
Mm-hmm.
going through that, and then it's a very big chunk of land. It's 2,200 hectares, and we've only started to develop less than half of it. So, in
Oh,
terms of
wow,
potential,
a lot
you
of
have the
plans.
road network and you have the vast land, which can, which will soon be a mega city.
So, which means the New Valley area. Baba, if you must know, New Valley area is south of Manila. It's a new developing city, but as we were all saying, it's kind of a high end piece of it's a kind of a high end development in the south. So that's what they are trying to develop because a lot of the population, a lot of the population in the Manila are congested, and a lot
Yep.
of the businesses want to decentralize their
Mhm.
businesses. So this is what they're trying to develop. But this location is a prime location. So is the Valley
It's the entire.
development, is the entire development owned by Ayala? Is that,
Yeah.
Is it also 200?
yeah?
Come in, sorry.
Okay.
Is a lot of the New Valley area owned by Ayala
Yeah.
development?
I think
Oh.
people mostly mistake this as um, the whole thing is it extends up to Calamba, from Santa Rosa to Calamba.
Ah.
So that's New Valley. There are
Mhm.
certain pocket developments from other developers within the area, but most people just call it New Valley. So
Ah, okay.
anything with the
Many
brand of New
people
Valley is Ayala. Although
okay.
they're it's a common mistake. That's
Okay.
the power of our brand. Power of the brand of Ayala. They made the whole landscape New Valley already, even if there are certain developments from other developers in the area.
Okay. That
Yeah,
that made it clear.
yeah. So in New Valley, so from Solenad, all the way up to Calamba, that's New Valley. Surrounding it, there are green fields, Eton, and Vistaland. So
If you
there's a
if you if you guys, sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. Thank you.
Right. Anyway, if you guys, Baba, if you have time to go there, you will realize
How?
it's a lot nicer than, I mean, a lot of the subdivisions there are exclusive subdivisions. So
Oh.
we are eyeing to put up a clinic there, but it's a little bit too high for us.
It's not a
Right
little
Oh.
now.
bit. It's quite high.
For starters. So we are actually trying to get on the insides of the development, so we know where to put up, because if there are not a lot of developments in there, it's a lot cheaper. So anyway,
Okay.
Actually, for
What,
Baba, sorry, I heard you're currently residing in Davao. Actually, in terms of general landscape for the Philippines, that's a really good area. In terms of infrastructure, and obviously the president is from there. So outside of Metro Manila and outside of the suburbs of Metro Manila, Cebu, Davao, are safe bets as well in terms of living.
yeah.
oh,
Well, I would never live like super close to Manila. I don't think I would live like south of the city, in like Alabang or somewhere like
me
that,
too.
because I don't like living
In the city.
in yeah.
Saturated areas.
Yeah. And to give you an example, okay, I was raised around the Washington D.C. metro area. Okay, when I was growing up, if you got about 10 miles outside of D.C., there was nothing. It was agricultural, farmland, and that sort of thing. Well, now you have to go about 60 miles outside the city in order to get out of the city. So it's really, really, well, of course, government only gets bigger, so I guess the two go hand in hand. But and real estate's ridiculously expensive up there now. When I was in high school, we lived in a house. It was a red brick built like the 1940s. It was built after World War II, but it was a really nice, solid house, really big lot, had a huge backyard and everything else. And I think we sold the house for something like about $100,000 back in the early, back in the late '80s. Well, now that same house is about $600,000.
Yeah, that's the
I mean,
power of
it was a
real
big
estate.
house. I mean, it was a really good sized house too. Like the downstairs, you had a bedroom, you had a living room area, and its own bathroom. So
Mm-hmm.
my mom actually used to rent that area out. Yeah, and they just share the kitchen. They'd come up the steps, and they come up the steps, and you're right in the kitchen. So it actually kind of worked out. I always told her she should have just built a little kitchenette downstairs, but oh well.
Well, okay.
So it just means that prices of land and real estate
Increase,
appreciates
yeah.
over time. So it's really
So I think it's a really good time now for
our guess.
our guest speakers, specifically Mr. Edward Oliva, to um, give us a background or
insight.
a little bit of insight, since we are from different kind of professions. So
Yeah.
can you
We're giving the
Yeah.
floor to Sir
show us
Edward.
Yeah, I'll share something from our recent research on capital appreciation of Alvea projects. Uh, so in so basically, capital appreciation is increase of value or price of real estate through time. So in recent years, for example, this is one of the office spaces in Makati. So it started at 160,000 per square in Philippine peso. Now that was in July 2017. Now it's at 260,000 per square in June, in about a year's time. So that's 62.5 capital appreciation. So close to 100,000 pesos per square in just 1 year. So that's for office, for the remaining inventory. One of our projects in Pasig started when they launched it last November 2013 was at 120,000 per square. Now it's at 188,000 per square. So, and there's a really big jump in the past year, 6 months and year, uh, which is about 34% in the last 6 months. So, so basic drivers of capital appreciation are obviously the closer it is to project completion. We usually sell our properties here in the Philippines 3 to 5 years before it's completed. So once it's near completion or it's already completed, the prices usually jump at a significant level. And the second factor, one of the factors as well, is increase in land costs. So property prices or land costs do not go down most of the time. So they usually appreciate year on year because of God doesn't create any more land. So, but our population increases. So that's why the land becomes um, appreciates in time. So, in terms of obviously, aside from the project itself, there's a community and an estate that you have to consider. So, you have to consider the surrounding environment. So, if there's a development in the surrounding, prices usually go up as well. So, this can be in terms of road network or in terms of other recreational facilities. So, and obviously, the another factor is quality of development and scarcity value. So I won't go into detail on those two. I'll just give you examples. For example, one of the ones in the south side, for example, Trivea, which is in New Valley, which I mentioned earlier, started in 2007 at 9,400 per square. Now it's at 25,000 per square. So that's about 9% per year on average compounded annual growth rate, or 166% increase. So it more than doubled already. So in one of the yeah in BGC, which is one of the BGC and Makati are the prime most areas in the Philippines. So it started in 2004. This used to be all grass. It's a very big chunk of land by the government, which was sold to different companies. Started at 2004. They launched it at 2004 at 80,000 per square. Now it's at 260,000 per square. So that's more or less three times of what you initially put. So yeah, in Makati, a similar story. So more or less, if you invested in 2008, it more or less close to double already. So that's like 10 years ago. So yeah, in terms of the sample computation, for example, in Trivea, so if you have a 350 square meter lot at 9,400 per square, now it's at 2,500. If you're gonna sell it with all the taxes and commission that you have to deduct, you would have gained 137% ROI, so close to more or less more than double the value. For BGC, so for example, one bedroom unit at 120,000 per square, if you sell it now at 240,000 per square, you would have 78% ROI. So that's it. I just gave you an example of the current landscape for Southside and BGC.
Okay. Now, how about as far as property taxes? Is it a flat rate? Is it a percentage? Or how does that work?
In terms of taxation, if you're selling, so basic taxation is capital gains, and then you have to pay for the broker's fee. If you're buying, usually developers charge around 4 to 4.5%. It de- Although the other like doc stamps transfer, it depends on the municipality actually, where it is located, so it differs from city to city, but more or
Like,
less
for
it's
example,
around
for
four.
prime lot, like BGC or something.
So yeah, in BGC, more or less you'll be charged around 4.5%.
Ah.
That's
So,
quite.
How about for
Same
the
in the U.S. I mean, now, do you pay property taxes every year on the
yes.
house? And what are generally the rates for that?
Yeah, it's one per it's so that will be based on the assessed value. So assessed value is based on depends on use. So for residential, it's the rate is 20% of the value times 1%. So for example, you have a uh, on a per square basis, you have 100,000 per square property. So they will compute the assessed value based on use. So that's 20% of that. And then you have to pay 1% of the 20%. So actually, that's not that's a reasonable amount every year to pay. The bigger chunk of the taxation or the cost will be acquiring the property or the capital gains once you receive the once you buy a property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
how about for commercial spaces? What's the ratio or what's the percentage?
Yeah. Commercial spaces, it depends actually if you have machinery or you have so it ranges from 30-40% of the on an annual basis. Yeah. So
Is that
it's a
like
little bit higher. Yeah.
20%, 1% of the 20%.
1% of the 20%?
So, but that's paid every year. So,
Mm.
Okay. Now, do you think there might be any risk of, say, a housing bubble here, like you had in the U.S. back in 2000? You know, it's funny. Before I got married in 2005. They were having the housing bubble, and my neighbor bought a house. He lived there for 6 months, and he sold it and made $40,000 off of it. And, I mean, he did do some improvements. He put a fence around the backyard. He put in like a paved patio. So he did do some improvements, but he made like $40,000 off owning a house in 6 months. However, in 2008, when the housing bubble burst, you had Lee County, Florida, which and Clark County in Nevada, which is where Las Vegas is. They had so many vacant homes. People, because the when the housing bubble burst, you had these people who owed like hundreds of thousands of dollars on these houses, and they couldn't afford to pay the mortgage anymore. So you had all these houses that pretty much got abandoned.
Yep. Yeah. For now, we're not seeing any bubble yet, because we have a strong financial sector, as well as currently in terms of Philippine economy. We're currently at the demographic sweet spot. They call it that. 65% of our total population is at the working age. So we're just entering that stage right now. And then obviously in terms of economy, in terms of fundamentals, our country is at a good place. We are at investment grade since 2013 by various financial ratings. So Moody, Standard and Poor, and Fitch ratings. So we're currently at a good place right now, and we're not seeing any bubble soon.
That's good. Popeye wants to know what's the average price of a three-bedroom condo. I think he wants to live in Tondo. He wants waterfront.
In Tondo actually.
Condo? No, it's
Condo.
not condo. It's
Condo.
condominium unit.
Okay. In a condo. Sorry, I heard
Yeah.
condo. It depends on the area. And obviously it depends on the brand as well. If you're talking about prime locations such as BGC and Makati, it will range you at around 30 million and above.
Okay.
Yeah, for that's prime developer and prime location.
Oh, that's
But if
right. I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Anyway,
so
so
30 million and above. So that's for 120 square meter condo
wow.
in BGC Makati.
Oo.
You go outside, more or less, if you go outside those two areas, you can still get around 16 to 20 million range.
With those kinds of properties, do you have terms of payment or something kind of like that? Not cash payments. Is it more expensive in cash payments, or is it almost the same with installment payments? Because you just said we are in an age of 60% working
People.
population.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, actually, we have flexible payment terms. Obviously, if you pay in cash or you go through the financial institutions like banks, we give discounts. It ranges from around 3 to 8% discount for proper if you pay in cash. So, for in terms of flexibility of payment, most of the condominiums are being they usually start to sell 3 to 5 years prior to completion. So obviously, if you get a condo which will be built 5 years from now, the payments will be divided accordingly until completion. So if it's 5 years, so that's 60 months. So it the whole thing can be divided into 60 months. Actually, there are some developments that you only have to pay half uh, or less prior to completion. Then you can go through bank financing, or you can pay it in cash afterwards.
Ah, okay.
It really depends on the project. Or more or less, um, that's a standard practice. You don't have to pay for everything until it's completed.
Oh.
Okay, sir, I just have a question. So, How is the real estate status here in the Philippines is affected by the high inflation rate of here in the Philippines? I guess
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The
there's a very
paper,
high inflation
paper's
rate
really been
this
losing its
year.
value.
Yeah, actually, yeah. In terms of inflation, it it is actually the best time to buy right
Really?
now. Yeah, because obviously, if you
Yeah.
put your money into
Mm-hmm.
hard assets will increase as well. So if you buy now, there will be an accelerated price increase. There increase in prices because of inflation.
Oh.
You get what I'm saying. So right
Yeah.
now,
So
obviously,
if there's a
the
high inflation rate, so the value will increase more as
yes.
years goes by.
Yes.
Okay.
So for example, obviously construction cost might go is going up right now because of the inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy your property now, it will obviously they will add the cost. Companies most likely will add the cost they incur uh, through price increases. So they will increase the prices faster than than the normal inflation when we have low inflation rates.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Couple
Okay.
questions here
Good point. Okay.
from a
So go,
listener.
Baba.
How do they determine property assessment for
It
freestanding homes? Or how
it's
do they
based
determine?
on so
How do Go ahead?
come again. Sorry, can you complete the question?
How do they determine property assessments?
Okay. It's based on. I think the question is based on appraised value. So, obviously, location is one, and then scarcity of demand. And then in terms of future developments, they usually account for that as well.
Oh,
So, yeah,
okay.
more or less, those are the things they account for
Mhm.
in terms of assessment.
Okay. And another one asked, what would be a high and a low for a 3 bedroom condo in a nice area? I guess a high. Ask for a high and a low.
Yeah. For okay, in terms of development, in a nice area, it really depends. Which, like I said earlier, for if really nice area like BGC, which is super prime, you might go at 30 million and up. For a good developer. For a decent developer with it depends on their cuts. You can get it at around um, close to 20 to 30 million, more or less.
How about
Pesos.
you're from that's right, you're from Davao City, right?
Yes, yes.
How about say for an area like Demosa? Are you familiar with Demosa?
Yeah, actually, our sister company has a property being built there. It's called Asuela Cove.
Demosa's a nice area and it's not ridiculously expensive.
Actually, it's similar price to here in Metro Manila. But that's by Ayala Land Premier. So it's a little bit steep because
The
it's big.
province.
Yeah. And then the price is around 200,000 per square. For that's for an Ayala brand. But for other developers, it can go lower. More or less at around 140, 150,000 per square.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Just
if
for condos. I'm talking about condos.
okay,
Because here in the Philippines, foreigners cannot own land.
yes.
They can only buy condos.
Right. We have to have it in the Filipinas name or we have to work out some way to lease it or whatever.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Now,
So yeah.
could you form like an LLC and have it in the LLC's name?
In the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Um in terms of corporation, uh, similar practice is being done. It should be 40% Philippine, 40%, 60% Filipino. The rest can be foreigner.
Okay, could you do something like that and then say get POA, power of attorney?
Um, yeah, the corporation restriction is basically 60/40. So that's the basic restriction, and then you can own the property afterwards.
Okay. Okay, and if you were to pay for a condo with in say cash, would you get a discount?
Yeah, it usually ranges from around. It depends on the when it will be turned over, but you can get around, yeah, 3 to 8% discount depending on the time of turnover.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
although yeah,
it's like if you go to a car dealership and you buy a car and you pay cash, they're usually going to knock give you a pretty good discount on
yeah,
that car because you're paying cash because you're saving them from doing miles of paperwork,
yeah,
getting
But then
approved
you also
financing and all that other stuff.
Mhm.
yeah,
But then
yeah,
you also get the advantage of not paying a lot more because in a few months it's gonna increase in price. So
yeah. It depends on how you compute it. Most of our clients who are investors prefer to pay it in a deferred mode, deferred payment
mm,
mode. Uh, why? For example, you only place 10% of the property value as a down payment.
mhm.
So for example, you're buying a 10 million condo. So that's 10%, so 1 million. Once the property price increase, it doesn't increase based on what you put in. It's
Ah,
based
okay.
on the total value. So for example, most of the time,
Mhm.
every quarter we increase by 3 to 5%. So in let's say you buy now, put the 10% down payment, and then after a quarter there's a 3% price increase. So it will be based on the 10 million. So that's 3% of 10 million is what, 300,000. So that will be, so if you compute it based on your down payment, so 1 million, 300,000 of 1 million is 30%, but the price increase is only 3%. So in terms of value for money, they usually go for
Oh,
deferred payment scheme. Yeah, instead of paying it in cash.
okay.
Because if you pay it in cash, that's 3%. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so do you have a certain kind of requirement if someone wants to acquire a property from Alveo, like um like financial statements
Or
or something kind like that it
Yeah, we
needs to be
usually ask for uh yeah, for we usually do credit investigation. So
mm-hmm.
it can be based on your bank statement or your financial statements uh, or your income tax return. So it can be based on that, depending on the income documents that you submit.
Oh, so there are
Yeah,
those
it
as
can
well.
be as well if you're employed. It
Mhm.
can be your employment certificate. So it depends.
Mm.
Really,
It depends on the property that you're trying to acquire.
yeah.
Or okay. So
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 yeah,
what happens is there a lapse on the kinds of property, or if you get delayed on, like, let's say for
payments.
example, if you get delayed for 2 months
Usually what
of
happens.
payment, what usually does happen? What are your rules as to
uh,
those
okay.
kinds of
If you're
events?
delayed in delayed for 2 months, that's the max actually. And
Ah,
then if you're paying within the in terms of Maseda law, that's the prevailing law on installment purchase here in the Philippines. Uh,
mm,
if you're paying, if you haven't paid more than 2 years yet, then this will apply. So you have the 60 days, and
Ah,
then
okay.
they will give you the 30-day notice to settle the account. With
Mm,
so that's the basically that's 90
90
days.
days.
90
Okay.
days.
Pretty much
Yeah.
the same in the U.S.
Yeah. For
Oh,
above 2 years, there's for if ever it's for if it's above 2 years, so there's an amnesty of 1 month for without interest per year of payment. So that's so if you're paying for 5 years, then that's basically 5 months. If you've already paid for 5 years, if it's above 2 years.
Okay. What is the
mm.
foreclosure rate on condos? Is it pretty high? I mean, how many people just I don't
So
know.
for clothes, usually that.
Actually, it's pretty low here, depending on the brand. For us, we do our credit and investigation first before we award you the property. So pretty much you're qualified to buy the property already before we award anything to you.
Okay, what is the? This is a pretty good question. I would have never thought of this. Of course, I wouldn't have thought of most questions anyway. But what is the burden on the developer if they don't finish on time, or if they don't finish? Who controls that, and what happens to your
Uh,
money?
yeah, under PD 957, under you, if for example, they don't finish on time, you can ask for a refund for that, for anything you've paid. Uh, or you can stop payment for that matter. If you have a balance, so you can stop payment for if in case of delays.
Okay, so but if you ask for your money back, do you stand a good chance of getting a full recovery? And if so, is there a time frame for that?
Yeah, it should be first. It should be documented under HLURB, the Housing Land Use Regulating Board, and then so the delay should be documented first, and then you can get the full recovery for your money, but obviously the interest will not be accounted for in that one. It will be it if you plan to get interest from what you put in, it will be at the discretion of the developer.
Okay, I
Yeah,
got
but
you.
you can get full recovery for your money.
Okay, well that's good then. And the time frame is kind of
Yeah,
you get it
it
back pretty
usually
quickly.
um yeah, if it's documented, you just have to coordinate with them. From what I heard, it usually takes about it depends on the developer as well. It usually takes about 3 to 6 months.
Okay,
It's something you get. Yeah.
okay. Uh, did the ladies tell you about their trip to Vietnam?
Before anything else, Baba, I just want to ask Sir Edward and Sir Miko. So, what separates Alveo from their rival real estate developers? Because I know that Alveo is they have a quite high
Great.
rate for properties, but still a lot of people is trying to acquire or procure a land or properties from them. So, what separates your company to other companies out there?
Yeah. Miko, do you want to answer that?
Okay, I can share some experience. Uh,
Okay.
I'm from another a high-end developer. I won't say that developer, but I was there 3 years ago. Then our price per square is almost the same as Ayala, and as what I've experienced from the documents that my previous developer has is they won't sell. They will sell, but they don't have any documents as of now. So once the unit is already nearing its turnover, they have certain changes in lots, changes in sizes. So I have one client who purchased a lot in Alabang that's around 15 million property. Then suddenly, uh, his lot increased around 45 square meters. That's around 3 million increase of lot of size. So my client is angry at me and also at the developer because they are not advised of that change of lot size. Unlike Ayala, they have already proven something. Uh, they sell, but before they sell, they prioritize on the documents. So that the legal won't. They don't have any problem with the legal. So that's my take on why people buy still in Ayala, even though the prices of our project is high, because they have uh, what's that? They have comfort. They don't have any problem purchasing a lot. So that's my take.
Yeah. I think
So technically, we're
I,
buying the security
Yeah.
and
yeah,
peace of
Yeah,
mind.
for security, peace of
yeah,
mind.
peace of mind is
Mhm.
ease of acquiring the property. I'll just add to that. In
Okay.
once it's built, Ayala has a very good property management team. They usually maintain the buildings. So that's one. So if you look at Makati right now, there are some buildings there who are 30, 40 years old, but looks decent, looks new, because they're managed properly. So in terms of if you're buying a property, you're sure that in 30, 40 years it will still be, um, yes, it will still be, you can still use the property. And second is, it's our properties are mostly built in mixed use districts. So it's not a standalone condo. You have the mall, you have the hotel, you have medical facilities, you have so everything you need, it will be there. So that's one reason why our prices go up as well, because it's complete. Um, and obviously, in terms of capital appreciation, you can be secured because it's a mixed use district and you have a brand which is a reliable brand. It's the it We have the number one real estate. We are the number one real estate brand in the Philippines. So how can you
Right.
go wrong with that?
Yeah, I
Okay. How about now? What about credit and credit scores?
Here in the Philippines, we don't have credit scores per se. Um, but in terms of banks, as long as you don't default, you are good.
Okay, well, that's good. I think it's easier to get credit here if you're from overseas than if you're a native Filipino, isn't it?
Actually, it depends on the income. It basically, there are two things they look at. First is income. So can you afford the property? It be over the 40% of your gross? So is the monthly amortization above 40% of gross? That's the basic thing. Uh, or do you have the cash for it? So if you're buying a 10 million property, do you have 10 million in your bank account?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's another thing that they look at. Uh,
So are they looking at liquid assets, or are can they also look at other?
yeah, yeah, liquid assets.
Oh,
So,
okay.
or in it, here's the thing. So that's the sort of independent assessment they do. Obviously, there's a mix of both. So, let's say you're buying a 10 million property, but I don't have 10 million in my bank account. I
Yeah.
only have, let's say, a million, but I have, let's say, or you only have half, but I earn this much. So there's a combination of both as well. So it's not independent of, do I have the money or do I have the salary or the income to go with it? Yeah.
But are they also trying to review, or they look at your capacity to pay, your capacity to earn?
Yeah, yeah. Those are the things that they
Is
look
that
at.
also one of the standards?
And they
Oh.
probably ask for a bank statement, I guess.
Yeah. Either your income tax return, bank statement, employment
Um,
certificate. So those are the
the
documents that you
capacity.
can.
Baba, can I loan from you? Just
Yeah.
friends.
Or
Maybe guarantee
it
for us.
yeah. Or
Utang.
you
Right
have
there.
a
We'll get a
husband
condo.
who can buy a property for you. That can be that can be a plus factor as well. Or
What
someone who can
can
pay
do?
for you. Yeah. So for example, here in the Philippines,
That
everything is
or that.
conjugal.
Yeah,
So
what
if
do
you
you
get
need to show as proof of income?
those three, and basic are income tax return, uh, employment certificates, or
Mm,
your bank statement.
BIR.
Statement. Okay. Yeah, because most expats who come here, they're not going to be working here, but they get retirement and all
Maybe
that stuff.
spending
So
here.
for them, it would probably be a bank statement.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, is the contract binding and backed by the government?
Yeah, yeah. It has a for a condo. It has a condominium certificate of transfer, which is registered
Oh,
under the registry of deeds. So that's binding.
Okay.
registry. What?
Registry
Ah,
of deeds.
deeds.
Yeah, deeds.
Okay. 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 That's a good question.
Yeah.
Mm.
For land, it's called TCT. Uh, Torrent Certificate of Transfer. For condominiums, it's CTC. Condominium, CCT. Sorry. Condominium Certificate of Title. So it's titled. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
cool.
so with business properties, it's required for a Filipino to own 60% of it.
Yeah.
Does it also somewhat apply to property
Mm,
ownership? I mean, like for example, a foreigner who's married to a Filipina, like something like that. Does it also apply?
yeah, it should be. They Uh,
Oh,
it should be for maximum ownership of the foreigners is 40% only. So
okay.
you can have it under a corporation if you
Is
wanna buy it. But if you're just individuals and you are married with a Filipina, it should be under the name of the the Filipina. Or if you were Filipino
Right.
born, you
Mm-hmm.
have the right to buy. Although there's a cap for it. There's a
Okay.
limit. Yeah. So if, for
Wow.
example, you renounce your citizenship already and you're basically a citizen
Realize.
of another country,
Mm-hmm.
so that you have a cap as long as you're Filipino born. For dual citizenship, you can own. There's no limit for dual citizens.
Mm. Wow, that's
okay.
really
As
it's a
long as
good.
dual, you don't
That's
renounce
very
one.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question. If you okay, because uh, I was doing this on my house in the U.S., but if you make like three extra payments every year on the house, does it? We figured it out. And on a 30-year mortgage, if you make 3 extra payments every year, you actually knock 5 years off
Mm.
the
Actually,
mortgage because of the interest. You're knocking 5 years off.
yeah. Here in the Philippines, if you get a bank loan, it's different when it's in-house. It's different when it's bank loan. For bank loan, it depends on the contract, but most contracts allow you to pay 6 months worth. You can advance 6 months worth of amortization. So you can advance that, and then yeah, obviously because of compounding interest, it will greatly reduce the interest rate.
Okay.
Interest payment, yeah.
Okay. And
As
if
long as, but you have to pay 6 months worth of amortization
okay.
in advance, yeah.
Yeah, because every fourth month we would make 2 mortgage payments. So it knocked some time off
Yep.
and lowered the interest on paying the house off.
Yep.
So okay. Okay. You if you have a good income, can you get a lower APR?
Uh,
Or
here in the Philippines, you it depends on your relationship with the bank. If you're uh, VIP in the bank, or you have a high rating in the bank, you get a preferred rate. But in terms of credit score or APR, it's not applicable here in the Philippines.
okay.
So it depends on your relationship with the bank or how much you put in the bank. So if you have a very big deposit and you are a preferred client, they will give you preferred rates, and you have lower rates than the public. Or you go to, um, for example, us in from the developer side, we usually have partner banks. And we give lower bank rates compared to the published rate in the public published rates. So we have discounted rates we can give.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'd like to after the show like you to stay on Hangouts a little bit. And do you have like a website?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nico?
or some contact or something. Just
And a
so
link
anyone.
because I could
Yeah.
share it on our show page, and I could also post the link in the video.
Yeah. Nico, can you share your details?
In the email?
My details, my
Yeah.
contact.
I could send it to you here on Google Chats.
Okay, sir. I will just message it in the chat,
Yeah, we'll message you after, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
can
fine.
you? Uh-huh.
in the group chat message. I will just put it here. I will just enter.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
Would you like to just if in case some listeners would like to ask or like to ask for further details about property sales, would you like to give at least
Few details or
no
contact number,
contact information, just email or something?
website.
Website.
They can look through.
Yeah. Nico,
Ah, okay.
you want to share?
Ano na lang? Chat box na lang?
Uh, is it okay if I will just chat it in the chat box?
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience or anything?
They've answered everything.
so.
Thank you very much. This was very informational.
Yeah,
We'll
very
have further questions
informative.
if we have
And
more money.
I had some in the audience PM me and say you really know your stuff, and You did
Yeah,
a
yeah.
job.
You really did a good job.
And nice,
Thanks.
nice slick PowerPoint presentation as well.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hope we can tell that to my boss.
Uh, I think it
Here's a
is.
question: do you
Yeah.
guys have any realtors you could recommend down in, is it Lipa City?
Lipa.
Lipa?
Lipa. Um, right
They're looking
now,
for a farmland.
farmland.
about
Farm.
one hectare.
Actually,
I think
sir,
Ate, iba.
are you looking for a farmland in Lipa, Batangas? Because my family, we have a farmland right beside Lipa. It's San Jose, Batangas. It's the capital of uh, chicken eggs in the Philippines.
Oh.
Yeah, it's around 1.6 hectares.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. You're never going to have 500 head of black Angus cattle on only 1 hectare, though.
Yeah, yeah. And so you
Actually, do
can
they even have black Angus here?
Angus beef. It's like Batangus.
No, 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 no. I'm talking about a breed of cattle.
Butangus.
Yeah,
Angus
yeah,
is a breed of cattle.
yeah, yeah,
Butangus pala.
yeah.
Uh,
yeah.
and
Like the thing.
I have a sample video, sir, of Navali, so our viewers will have a glimpse of what is the actual look of Navali. Can I play it here?
Or go.
Okay, we'll
Go
just
go.
play it.
You can play it here. Baba mute us.
mute you.
Okay.
He will play the one of their properties.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Share
As soon as I,
screen.
there you are. Always hiding. Uh, control
Okay,
room.
I will
Okay.
play it right now, sir. Okay. Can you hear the music?
No, we don't hear the music.
There's no sound.
Oh, I think there's no option for hearing the background music.
Don't think so. Unless you put your microphone up to it. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's better.
I will.
Yeah, I heard the music. We heard the
Uh,
music.
okay, okay. So that's basically it. The value project.
Okay.
That was really nice.
Yep.
That's around 2,000 plus hectares of development by solely by Ayala.
Wow.
Wow. Now, what is the average cost of a home in there? Or is it condos? It's homes, right? Like regular homes, or is it like a condo?
The average, the minimal price of a lot there is around 6 million up to 15 million. It's around 260 square meters per lot.
Okay. That looks really nice, though. And they actually had kind of a real boat there.
That's actually a man-made lake. It's a 4 hectare man-made lake.
And you could fish in it.
Yes, and you can feed the koi fishes there.
There are a lot of koi fishes there.
Yeah,
A
a
lot of
lot.
what kind of fish?
It's a really nice place. It's
Okay.
a lot, south of Luzon is a lot for me, in my opinion. Especially with the Ayala development, it's a lot nicer than other places. It's not that crowded.
Okay. Yeah, it looks
South
very
is the way
nice.
to go.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll move into our final segment of the show. Uh, we really appreciate having you gentlemen on. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Promote your
Yeah, that's it.
wedding solution.
Mm.
Okay, ladies.
Okay, thank you very much
Your
for thank you very much for entertaining us. I mean, for being here with us on the show, and you really gave us a light about current real estate, especially for prime units, Aveo and Ayala.
So thank you for your time. Really
Yeah,
appreciate your imparted knowledge to everyone. So hopefully we can buy an Alveo property in the future.
yeah, we
Soon.
really, really appreciate you being here. It was very, very educational for me, as I'm sure it was for our audience. And as I said, I would like to get your link and we could post it on our face. We do have a Facebook page, and we could also put your website link or your information or whatever in the show description as well. So this way they watch it, they can click on the link and go right to your website.
Yep. Yeah. It was our pleasure to be in the show.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you, thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you
Yeah,
everyone for listening. Have a good day ahead, or have a good night, or wherever you are.
Okay, good, thanks.
yeah, definitely. Okay, let me end it here. Ah, oh, there it is.